The desperate Call Admiral Kess stood on the observation deck of the Zephyrian flagship Eternal Dawn, watching her homeworld burn. The blue-green surface of Zephyros Prime flickered with explosions as the mechanical plague spread across continents. Cities that had stood for millennia crumbled in minutes. The ancient towers of the capital turned to dust, and with them, 3 billion souls. "Status report," Kess commanded, her 4 arms gripping the railing until her knuckles turned white. "The erasers have consumed 60% of the surface," reported Commander Yule, his voice barely steady. "Estimated time until total planetary conversion is 14 hours. Kess closed her eyes. The erasers had appeared 3 months ago without warning, self-replicating machines that consumed everything in their path, turning matter into more of themselves. They showed no interest in communication, no pattern except endless consumption. Worlds died in days. Species vanished in weeks. Dr. Vex approached from the science station, his scaled face grim. "Admiral, I've analyzed the consumption. Patterns from the 17 fallen worlds. The erasers aren't random, they're systematic. They target population centers first, then industrial sites, then natural resources. It's almost like they're following a protocol." "A protocol for what?" "Extermination. Complete and total." Kess turned away from the dying world below. Her people had ruled this sector for 2,000 years. The Zephyrian Empire stretched across 40 star systems. Now only 12 remained, and the erasers were closing in on each one. "What about the Galactic Council?" she asked. Commander Yule shook his head. "The Karathi sealed their borders. The Nexus Confederation fled to dark space. The hegemony claims they're developing a solution, but their last 3 worlds fell yesterday." "Cowards," Kess spat. "All of them." "There is one option," Dr. Vex said quietly. "One we haven't tried." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what he meant. "The humans are isolated for a reason," Commander Yule warned. "The Treaty of Titan Station forbids contact except in galactic emergency." "This is a galactic emergency," Kess replied. "How bad could they be?" Dr. Vex pulled up holographic records. Human colony ships left Earth 400 years ago after their homeworld became uninhabitable. They've had minimal contact with other species since then. Most consider them myths. Some say they're dangerous. Others claim they're extinct. But they're still out there? Long-range sensors detected their colonies in the outer spiral, heavily fortified. They don't respond to standard communications. Kess stared at the tactical display. Red markers showed eraser positions advancing toward the remaining Zephyrian worlds. Time was running out. "Send the message," she ordered. "Admiral," the Council specifically. "The Council is gone. Half the galaxy is dead." Kess's voice echoed across the bridge. "If the humans can help, we contact them. If they can't, we die with honor instead of cowering in corners." The communications officer, a young Zephyrian named Tal, looked up nervously. "What should I say?" "The truth. Tell them we're dying. Tell them we need help. Tell them—" Kess paused. "Tell them the stars are going silent and we don't know how to make them sing again." The message transmitted into deep space. Then they waited. Hours passed. The erasers continued their methodical destruction of Zephyros Prime. 3 more outer colonies went dark. The fleet prepared for evacuation, but there was nowhere to run. The erasers were everywhere. "Admiral," Tal called out suddenly, "we're receiving a response." "From the humans?" "Unknown. It's just coordinates and a single word. Wait." The coordinates marked empty space 3 light hours from their position. Kess ordered the fleet to the location, leaving Zephyros Prime to its fate. When they arrived, space appeared empty. Sensors showed nothing unusual. Then reality twisted. A ship materialized out of nowhere. Not decloaked, materialized, as if it had stepped sideways through dimensions. The vessel was unlike anything in Zephyrian databases. Sleek black hull with no visible weapons, no identification markings, no communication arrays. It simply existed, silent and ominous. "How big is it?" Kess asked. Difficult to measure. Sensors keep giving different readings. Sometimes it appears to be 3 kilometers long, sometimes 30. Are they jamming us? No, Admiral. I think the ship itself is somehow variable. A communication channel opened without invitation. No greeting, no identification. Just a clear human voice speaking Galactic Standard, with perfect pronunciation. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the human vessel Probability's Edge. You called for help. Kess straightened. Admiral Kess of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. Captain, we're facing extinction. An enemy called the Erasers is consuming our worlds. They can't be stopped, can't be reasoned with. 17 civilizations have already fallen. The Erasers, Chen repeated. Self-replicating nanomachine swarms with adaptive programming and unlimited resource conversion capability. The bridge fell silent. Chen had described the Erasers more accurately than their own scientists. You know them? Dr. Vex asked. We know of them. We've been preparing. Preparing for what? For this day, for this call, for this choice. Admiral Kess felt a chill run down her spine. How long have your people known about the Erasers? 347 years, 2 months, 16 days. The precision of the answer was unsettling. That's almost as long as humans have been in space. Yes, but the Erasers only appeared 3 months ago. Captain Chen's voice remained calm. The Erasers have appeared many times, Admiral. This is simply the first time they've encountered species advanced enough to recognize them as artificial. Dr. Vex leaned forward. Are you saying they're not new? The universe is very old, Doctor. Old enough for many civilizations to rise and fall. Old enough for some to leave behind safeguards. Safeguards against what? Against species that expand too quickly. Against civilizations that consume too much. Against empires that spread without wisdom. The implications hit Admiral Kess like a physical blow. You're saying the Erasers are population control? I'm saying the Erasers serve a purpose. Whether that purpose aligns with your survival, that remains to be seen. Commander Yule stepped forward angrily. Our people are dying, billions are dead, and you speak of purpose? Every action has consequences. Commander, every choice creates reactions. Your species has expanded across 40 systems in 2 millennia. Did you consider what might be watching? What might respond? Are you going to help us or not? Admiral Kess demanded. A long pause. Then Captain Chen spoke again, her tone somehow different. Colder. Admiral, are you prepared to accept help that might be worse than the problem you're facing? What do you mean? Are you prepared to discover that humanity's solution to the Erasers might terrify you more than the Erasers themselves? The bridge fell completely silent, except for the hum of life support systems. Captain, Kess said carefully. What exactly are you offering? Survival, Admiral, at a price you haven't considered. The question is whether your species is ready to pay it. Another long pause. We have a way to stop the Erasers. We've had it for centuries, but using it will change everything. Not just for your people, but for every species in the galaxy. Some changes can't be undone. Dr. Vex spoke up. What kind of changes? The kind that make you question whether survival is worth the cost. The kind that make you wonder if the cure is worse than the disease. Admiral Kess looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. Young and old, soldiers and scientists, all facing extinction. Behind them, their homeworld was dying. Ahead lay an unknown path with unknowable consequences. Captain Chen, she said finally, show us what you have. The black ship began to move, not through space but through something else entirely. Reality bent around it like water around a stone. Follow us, Admiral. But understand this. Once you see what humanity has become, once you know what we've prepared, there will be no going back. The galaxy will never be the same. The human vessel disappeared, leaving only coordinates and a choice, Admiral. Kess stared at the empty space where the impossible ship had been. Behind her, Zephyros Prime sent its final transmission before the Erasers completed their work. Ahead lay salvation or damnation. Set course, she ordered. All ships, follow the humans. As the Zephyrian fleet moved toward the unknown, none of them noticed the other ships joining them from various directions. Ships from species they thought were extinct. Ships from civilizations that had supposedly fled to dark space. Ships carrying representatives of every surviving race in the galaxy. Humanity had called them all. The question was why? The human solution. The coordinates led to a system that shouldn't exist. 3 dying stars orbited each other in impossible harmony, their combined light painting space in shades of crimson and gold. Between them hung a structure that defied comprehension, a sphere 10,000 kilometers in diameter, its surface covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at. Directly, Admiral Kess watched her sensor readings with growing unease. The structure registered as solid, liquid, energy, and empty space simultaneously. Her instruments couldn't decide what they were seeing. "Admiral," Commander Yule reported, "we're detecting ships from 17 different species. Some we thought were extinct." On the main display, vessels materialized from various directions, the sleek crescents of the Karathi, who had supposedly sealed their borders, the crystalline forms of the ethereal collective, missing for 50 years. Even the bio-ships of the Symbiont Union, creatures that hadn't been seen since the first eraser attacks. They all received the same call, Dr. Vex realized. Humanity contacted everyone. Captain Chen's voice came through the comm. "Welcome to Haven Station, Admiral. Dock at the coordinates we're transmitting. Leave your weapons powered down." "Why are we all here?" Kess asked. "Because this affects everyone. Because the choice we're about to make will determine the future of intelligent life in this galaxy." The docking bay was vast enough to hold a dozen fleets. As Admiral Kess walked through the airlock with Dr. Vex and Commander Yule, she was struck by the station's impossible architecture. Corridors curved upward and downward simultaneously. Gravity seemed to be a suggestion rather than a rule. Representatives from other species gathered in a central chamber. The air itself felt strange, as if it were carefully maintained for dozens of different life forms. Kess recognized some faces: Admiral Thok of the Karathi, Speaker Zemin of the Ethereal Collective. Others were completely alien, beings from species she'd never encountered. At the center of the chamber stood 3 humans. Captain Chen was smaller than Kess had expected, with silver hair and eyes that seemed far older than her face. Beside her stood a tall man with mechanical implants covering half his skull, and a woman whose skin had a faint metallic sheen. "I am Commander Torres," the man with implants said. "This is Dr. Vasquez. We are here to explain what humanity learned in the darkness between stars. For 3.5 centuries, Captain Chen began, humanity has lived in isolation, not by choice but by necessity. When we left Earth, we carried with us the memory of what unchecked expansion could do to a world. We swore we would never repeat those mistakes. But isolation taught us something else," Dr. Vasquez continued. "It taught us to observe, to study, to prepare for threats we hoped would never come." The chamber's walls suddenly became transparent, revealing the space outside. But instead of stars, the view showed a historical record. The erasers consuming world after world throughout galactic history. "The erasers are not new," Commander Torres explained. "They are ancient. We found evidence of 17 previous manifestations spread across 4 million years. Each time they appear when galactic civilization reaches a certain threshold of expansion." Admiral Thok of the Karathi stepped forward. "You're saying they're a natural phenomenon?" "Natural, no. Artificial, yes. But not in the way you think." The historical display shifted, showing ancient star maps with species that no living being had ever heard of. "The erasers were created by the first galactic civilization," Captain Chen revealed. "A species that called themselves the Architects. They built them as a failsafe, a way to prevent any future civilization from making the same mistakes they made." "What mistakes?" Speaker Zemin asked, her crystalline form resonating with harmonics of fear. "They consumed their galaxy. Every resource, every star, every world. They turned their entire spiral arm into a machine designed to process matter into energy. By the time they realized what they had done, It was too late. Dr. Vex's scaled face went pale. They created the erasers to prevent other species from doing the same thing. Exactly. The erasers activate when galactic civilization reaches critical mass, when expansion becomes consumption, when intelligence becomes greed. The display showed current galactic expansion patterns. The combined territories of all present species covered nearly a quarter of the galaxy. "We've reached the threshold," Commander Torres said grimly. "That's why the erasers have awakened now." "But you said you had a solution," Admiral Kess protested. Captain Chen nodded slowly. "We do, but understanding it requires knowing the full truth about humanity's journey through the dark." The walls shifted again, showing human colony ships drifting through the void between stars. But these weren't the desperate refugees of legend. These ships were different, larger, stranger, more advanced than anything in current galactic databases. When humanity left Earth, we didn't just flee. We evolved. Generation ships became laboratories, isolation became experimentation. We had centuries to think, to adapt, to become something new. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, and her metallic skin began to shift and flow like liquid mercury. "We merged with our technology. Not replaced, merged. Every human on our ships carries nanomachines in their bloodstream, living computers in their neurons. We became hybrid beings, part biological, part artificial." The alien representatives backed away in horror. To most galactic species, such integration was considered abomination. "We became the one thing the erasers cannot consume," Commander Torres explained, his mechanical implants glowing. "We became like them, but conscious, controlled, directed by will instead of programming." Admiral Kess felt sick. "You're saying humans are living machines?" "We're saying humans became the perfect counter to the erasers. We can interface with their systems. We can understand their code. We can turn them against themselves." Captain Chen raised her hand, and the skin became transparent, revealing circuitry flowing like blood through her veins. "This is what we offer, not just a solution to the erasers, but evolution, transformation, the next step for every species willing to take it." "You want to turn us into machines?" Admiral Thok demanded. "We want to give you the choice. The erasers can be stopped, but only by beings who can match their technology, only by species willing to adapt. And if we refuse?" The display showed projections of galactic consumption patterns. Without change, every civilization would eventually trigger the erasers again. Then this cycle continues forever. Every few million years, intelligence reaches the threshold. The erasers awaken, civilizations fall, the galaxy resets. Dr. Vex stepped forward. "There has to be another way." "There is," Dr. Vasquez said quietly. "Voluntary limitation, controlled expansion, species-wide agreements to never exceed certain resource consumption levels." "You're talking about stagnation," Speaker Zeman protested. "No growth, no progress, no future." "We're talking about wisdom," Captain Chen replied. "About learning when enough is enough." The chamber fell silent as the representatives considered their options: evolution or limitation, change or stagnation, survival or principles. "How long do we have to decide?" Admiral Kess asked. "The erasers will reach critical mass in 72 hours, Commander Torres answered. "After that, the conversion process becomes irreversible." "Show us," Admiral Kess said finally. "Show us how to stop them." Captain Chen nodded and touched a control panel. "Remember, Admiral, you asked for this." The chamber filled with holographic displays showing the technical details of humanity's solution. Nanomachine integration protocols, consciousness transfer procedures, the complete merger of organic intelligence with artificial systems, but buried in the data was something else, something that made Dr. Vex gasp in recognition. "The nanomachine signatures," he whispered. "They're not just similar to the erasers, they're identical." The truth hit the chamber like a physical blow. "You didn't just study the erasers," Admiral Kess realized. "You created them." Captain Chen's expression didn't change, Humanity learned from the architect's mistake. We built the erasers not as destroyers but as teachers, as warnings, as a way to force evolution instead of extinction. You've been manipulating galactic development for centuries. We've been protecting it. Every species that survived eraser contact became stronger, wiser, more careful. Those that couldn't adapt to the universe as it really is. The alien representatives erupted in anger and fear, but Captain Chen continued calmly. The choice remains the same. Evolve and survive, or limit and stagnate. But now you know the truth. Humanity has already chosen. We became what was necessary to shepherd intelligence through its darkest impulses. Admiral Kess stared at the human captain. You're not offering to save us. You're offering to recruit us. We're offering partnership in the longest mission any species has ever undertaken, ensuring that intelligence survives its own success. The timer on the main display continued counting down. 71 hours, 53 minutes. The erasers are waiting for our signal, Commander Torres explained. If we send the integration codes, they'll begin converting volunteer populations. If we send nothing, they'll continue their current programming. And if we refuse entirely? Captain Chen's eyes held depths that seemed older than stars. Then, humanity continues alone as we have for centuries, and the galaxy learns whether it can survive its own hunger. The representatives of 17 species faced the hardest choice in galactic history, not just survival but the nature of survival itself. In the distance, the erasers waited, patient, implacable, ready to fulfill whatever purpose their creators decided. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the future balanced on, a knife's edge waiting for the choice that would echo through eternity.